The Yeti Witch is one of the easiest Town Hall 13 attack strategies to 3-star, so let's give you 3 unique ways to using the Yeti Witch for an easy 3-star. First, the Octo Quake version of the Yeti Witch can be a relatively strong option, as it can be used on a plethora of different base types, but you're mainly going to be using 8 Earthquake spells. 4 Earthquake spells are going to be used towards the entry point of your attack. This is usually used to damage defenses, which makes it perfect for the log launcher and opens walls. You're going to use your final 4 towards the back end of the base in order to open up a very clear lane throughout. You're then going to also set up funneling in this case. I'd recommend using 2 Yetis and 2 Witches, as it kind of creates a really nice funnel for you to then send in the rest of your Yetis and Witches into the base. This is important because you want to make sure that you have your heroes and your log launcher going into the core of the base. From there pretty much isn't as much left. You can spam in everything like I mentioned, and then pretty much you're going to be set in stone. Using your heroes to follow suit, using an early Grand Warden ability to protect your log launcher, and that's going to help you a ton, mostly because you want to get your heroes, and especially your log launcher, into the core of the base. So as your heroes, your Yetis, and your Witches are completely dominating all the other defenses around it, you should use a rage spell with your log launcher to get rid of the Town Hall. The Yetis and Super and the Rocket Balloon combo can be very, very good. Outside of that, you can kind of let everything follow suit. You can use your free spells to either help your heroes like your King or deal with the enemy CC troops. You've also got your back-end Royal Champion. You're typically using her to support, clear out defenses, and really just help your Yetis in any way, shape, or form, even if she does falter towards the end. Other than that, you really have a lot of free space, because even if the Yetis start to die out, you'll still have the Witches, and they're going to be completely dominating the rest of it. This is a really good strategy against single-target Infernos, or if there is mostly single-target Infernos. If there's only one multi, that's completely fine, because you can easily 3-star. It's a really simple spam attack. Now, if you don't want to use 8 Earthquake spells, but you still want to use this strategy, bats are the next best thing that you can use. Pretty much, you're going to start this off by setting up the core of the base. Using 4 Earthquake spells to open that up is going to help you a ton. Then, in terms of funneling, using 2 Yetis and 3 Witches on either side is going to help create enough of a funnel for you to then push the rest of your Yetis and your Witches into the base. The reason that you use that Earthquake spell in the core is so your log launcher can actually open up the initial walls, and the core is already opened up to you thanks to the Earthquake. So similar to the Quad Quake version, you're going to spam them in and pretty much do the exact same thing. Be patient with your heroes, have the Grand Warden move in, and of course, using an early Grand Warden ability is going to allow you to protect everything. Now, the only difference is you're going in for splash buildings, so scatter shots, eagle artillery, the wizard towers. Get as many as you can, because that's going to help you a lot. You can use a back-end Royal Champion to help with this as well, as it's going to help you provide a lot of value, and of course, it's going to help you get down other splash-related defenses. This will include the Town Hall, considering that is a pretty hefty defense. So as long as you can move your Yetis through the base, allowing them to clear different defenses and have your Royal Champion clear more as well, it's going to set you up really nicely for the bat spells. Now with the bat spells, you can either place them in a couple different ways. You could either drop them right on top of a scatter shot or wizard tower, or you could send them in a bat wave. Typically, I would actually just recommend placing it right on top, since they can easily overwhelm them, and of course, you can then use your free spells over the 2 if they're very close together. Other than that, you just have to be really careful with where they are placed and how you time your free spells. Of course, just be very careful of single target damage, because if there's too much, the bats will actually start to thin out. But in a strategy like this, where you have so many spawnables, this is meaning the Yeti mites and the skeletons from the Witches, this is honestly a really tough strategy to stop. When you pair that with the bat spells, it just becomes insanely good, and thus, this is a fantastic option just as well, as Yetis and witches at Tunnel 13 are very, very strong together with a good pairing. Now, what if you don't want to use something super spammy, but still want to use a Yeti Witch? Well, you've got a Yeti Witch Smash. This is mainly going to be starting with a Recall Queen charge, and if you want, I'd recommend using the Flame Fling. What I would recommend doing is starting by using the Flame Flinger, so clearing out a mortar if there is one pretty close, and you're going to use that Flame Flinger to try and go for a key defense. This includes the Eagle Artillery, as it is a pretty big deal. Now, your Queen charge, on the other hand, is typically going in for the Town Hall. Of course, you don't have to, though I would recommend doing so, as it's going to allow you to not have to worry about it. You can deal with the enemy CC as well. And what's really nice about it is pretty much you're creating a bit of a funnel, which is going to be great for your Yeti Witch. With the recall spell, it just adds a lot of benefits since you can actually get that queen back and the healers for the actual smash portion. Your main goal here is to set up control with the use of the queen charge and then recalling her out, and the Flame Flinger to get some value, such as the Eagle Artillery. This is going to establish a lot of good strength before you actually send in your Yetis and Witches. I would also recommend using the Barbarian King and a Yeti to set up the other side of your funnel. So while the Flame Flinger is doing its own thing, you should have that funnel being set, so that way it allows you to control where your Yetis and Witches are going. This doesn't have to be a long funnel. As long as you clear out a couple buildings, this is going to establish just enough so to where the Yetis and the Witches stay inside the base. You could also take in some sneaky goblins if you want to clear some storages or resource buildings in order to create the other side of the funnel, since sometimes there might be those type of buildings, so try to take advantage of it. You can still use a baby dragon as well. It just works really well. So you have a lot of different options for funneling, but I would recommend using the King and the Yeti at the start, unless you want to use some other troops for funnel. Once your funnels have been set, you can basically spam in your Yetis, your Witches, and then the rest of your troops as you send them in. So having the Witches, the Queen with the healers, of course from that recall spell, and the Grand Warden. Using an early Rage to start moving in, a jump, and an early Grand Warden ability will help you get into the core and establish some control. Outside of this, you just really want to make sure that you are smashing through the core of the base. This is usually going to include getting rid of the scatter shots if you can, but making sure that you're able to overwhelm some of these other defenses are incredibly important. Making sure that the Yetis are continuously spawning skeletons can really help your Yetis in the core and stay for longevity. Now, of course, you've also got your Royal Champion. You're typically using her on the back end. So while your troops in the core are dealing some really nice damage, you've got your back-end Royal Champion helping to clear out other buildings. As for spells, you've got stuff like freeze spells where you can freeze up defenses, which can make a pretty big impact and will allow you to keep a large portion of the troops in the core alive. And this can work incredibly well for 3 stars. This is a really strong option if you don't want to use a spammier setup, and it's still a fairly easy option.